Waiting on Rabel. Part-time Rabel.
There he is.
I know this guy right here. Change the name on it, you know? We're going to go ahead and get started this evening. Call to order the City of Centerton Planning Commission for September 6, 2022 with a roll call.
Doug Safar,
Here.
Joey Engel,
Here.
Kevin Murphy,
Here.
Craig Langford,
Here.
Gary Harris,
Here.
John Fetzems,
Here.
Ben Lewis,
Here.
Tony Davis, Brandon Swoboda.
Here. All right, first thing on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from 8/16/2022.
Don, I motion to approve the minutes from 8/16/2022. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, next on the agenda is the ratification of the administrative approvals. There are 3 track splits and 2 home occupations. Are there any questions or comments in regard to the ratifications? There are no questions or comments, then I would entertain a motion to approve those.
This is Tony. I make a motion to approve the ratification of administrative approvals.
Joey, I second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, under old business this evening, we have development 2108, the Christian Life Center adjacent street agreement. This is at the west side of Gamble. It's just south of 1011 Gamble Road. It is zoned R3 single family. And the applicant is the Centerton Life Center of Centerton. And you're going to give us an overview. You want staff to do a combination?
I'll answer questions. So after the last meeting with the adjacent street agreement, staff and Dirk have had further discussions. The general consensus is that the storm sewer that is coming out of the detention pond would be extended in order to connect to Valley Oaks subdivision to the south. There is going to be a 2-foot gravel culvert extended along the length of Gamble Road. The drainage along Gamble is going to be made into a swale to promote the drainage to get into the drainage system that will be connected into the Valley Oaks system. There are some street trees currently shown along the street with Vaughn, but due to the to Gamble, excuse me, getting my projects mixed up. But these are the utilities, but they're going to be shuffled around a little bit to cluster. We still have substantial trees along the line, but they just won't be quite in that line. But staff is recommending in approval of the fee of the improvements. There will not be a fee in lieu.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? Dirk, anything to add? All right. If there's no questions or comments, then I would entertain a motion for development 2108, the Christian Life Center adjacent street agreement as presented.
Don, I motion to approve it. Development 2108 Christian Life Center street agreement.
This is Ben. I second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you. All right, as we go into new business, we do have a couple of public hearings this evening. As we get into those public hearings, there'll be time for public comment and input. And so the first public hearing this evening is rezone 2219 Silver Dreams LLC. It's at the northeast corner of Brookside Road and Main Street. R3 D to R3 single family, 10.05 acres. And the applicant is Silver Dreams LLC. Is the applicant here to give us an overview of what you're requesting?
Hey, all. I'm Dadi. And so we are just degrading from completing to R3 single family. We see most of the houses are single family home. It will be appropriate to go with the single family and help the community. So that's the reason. R3 single family.
Thank you. If there's any questions, we'll call you back up. Thanks. All right, Donna, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Sure. So this property was rezoned to R3D a while back. And they, after some consideration, they've decided that they do want to go with single family homes. So have requested to rezone to R3 single family. One note, I have missed in this version updating the notices. All the public notices have been met. So that is, their requirements have been met. The property is consistent with R3 single family. There is an R3 single family subdivision directly to the west. There's agriculture to the north and east. But this is a fairly rapidly developing area. It's consistent with this. It's compatible with the land use plan. We all did rezone into R3D recently, and this is a low intensity use for that. There is a small section of flood in the corner, but it is pretty minimal compared to the overall development.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners before we open up to the public? All right, at this time, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
All motion to open the public hearing.
John, I'll second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? We are now open to the public. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak or have any comments or questions in regards to this request, then we ask that you come to the podium. We do ask that you state your name and address, and then any questions or comments that you might have. Second call for anyone that wishes to speak in regards to this request. And the third and final call.
This Jerry, I make a motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing in a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, let's go through the 5 things that we need to consider. And the first one is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan? Not why. And as stated, it is compatible with the adopted land use plan. Does anybody disagree with that or have any comments? Is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? And I do believe that this one is compatible with the fact that it is single family and there is single family that's around it. Anybody disagree with that or have any comments? Would all the permitted uses in the new zone be compatible in this location and the surrounding areas? And I do believe the fact that single family would be compatible in the surrounding area. Does anybody disagree with that or have any comments? Would the rezoning provide a benefit to one landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? And I do not believe that this offers a benefit just to this landowner. Does anybody disagree with that? And if the public is opposed, why? And there's no public comments or opposition to this request. Any additional questions or comments from any of the commissioners or staff? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for rezone 2219 Silver Dreams LLC from R3D to R3 single family.
This John, on motion to approve rezone 2219 Silver Dreams LLC, R3 duplex to R3 single family.
Greg, I'll second.
Motion in a second. Caleb will do a roll call for me, please.
Joey Engel,
Yes.
Brandon Swoboda,
Yes.
Barry Harris,
Yes.
Dan Lewis,
Yes.
Evan Murphy,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
Jeff Safar.
Yes. Thank you. Good luck. All right, next on the agenda this evening is rezone 22-20 commercial homes by Roth at 8931 Greenhouse Road from A1 to C3 and R3 single family. 10.38 acres and 0.72 acres for the C3. The R3 single family will be 9.66. The applicant is Commercial Homes by Roth. And the engineer is Jeff Bates. Jeff, you want to give us an overview of what your guys are requesting?
Sure, I'm Jeff Bates with Bates and Associates, the developers also here. They want to rezone this to R3 single family in order to build 36 single family homes. More density is requested because of the large amount of right of way we have to dedicate. It's 3.65 acres, which is almost 35% of the property can go to the right of way. And there's floodplain and it's long and narrow. So in order to make this development feasible whatsoever, we need a little bit higher, medium high density residential development. We also have a PUD involved, it's up with showing exactly what we're going to put there.
Donna, do you want to give us a staff overview as well?
Yes. So the parcel is designated low, medium density residential on the adopted land use plan. This is a density of about 3 to 7 units per acre. It was recently annexed into the city of Centerton and it's between Creekside Phase 2, which is roughly 2.35 units per acre, and Cool Ridge Phase 1, which is about 2.80 units per acre. The western portion of the property is within a floodplain, as was mentioned. The parcel is surrounded by the R2 zoning to the north and south that the mentioned side Ridge subdivisions. City of Bentonville R1, single family residential, about 2.58 units per acre, zoning to the east. Rezoning to R3 single family in C3 would provide an opportunity for infill. The current PUD is also under review and will be the next project on the agenda. The staff finding is that this is generally compatible, but it isn't consistent with the land use plan. So that is something to consider. Medium high density single family, R3 single family has a maximum density of 6 units per acre. But as mentioned, there is a significant portion of this site that is going to be dedicated for right of way. So in the PUD, it's actually mentioned how much will be given for right of the property is proposed, which is less than that. It is about 30% of the property that is going to be given up in right of way, so it is less than 60 minutes an acre. The parcel does have direct frontage along Greenhouse Road, major arterial. And it is the dashed line that is the minor arterial connection, and they will be building all of it. So it is a substantial right of way dedication. They are also building a trail. There is direct access to utilities. And there is a floodplain, which will not have any construction. There is also a wetland, so there will be a wetlands assessment that will be necessary prior to any construction. If there's any core requirements, all of those need to be met. So generally, the comprehensive plan does encourage infill development, including subdivisions, building adjacent to new ones. There will likely not be multiple points of entry due to the fact that there is the floodplain on the east side, at least west side, at least not for a substantial amount of time. C3 is going to be located directly adjacent to the major road along the front. So the comprehensive plan, while this is not specifically designated in the land use plan, it does encourage flexibility and having services and retail available for people to be able to access and not necessarily have to get into their car. That's the report. If you have specific questions, there's some additional information. You may be able to pull, but there is some that are looked at more specifically in the PUD.
When did we see this last? Do you remember what date we saw it last?
It was February of last year.
Sorry.
I think it was February of last year. This year, sorry, this already 15. Sorry, the Rona.
12.
Donna, I have a question for you. When you do the density calculations for the surrounding subdivisions, are you taking the right of way out of that as well? Is that apples to apples?
I believe so. I
don't think it
believe-
is.
I believe it's right, the right of way was taken out in both, or right of way was not taken out in both. Diane actually did the calculations.
That's why on the PUD, we will show the right of way. We do the calculations with the whole
Yeah.
piece of units per acre so that we can compare it apples to apples with the surrounding property.
Yeah, most of the right of way you're giving up is for road improvement. Do you happen to know what that percentage is? Road improvement and trail, is that correct? Or
Yes, sir. That, it was about 33, 34%.
Yeah, I think we have it on the PUD.
3.65 acres.
any other questions from the commissioners before we open it up to the public?
It is 38% of the frontage and 3.65 total acres, which is 35% of the parcel. Is being dedicated.
And that includes a trail. Is that where the trail's at too? I was trying to peek, but I was listening as well.
Is that just an easement, the trail? Or is it actual right of way?
It's actual right.
Actual right.
It's along the frontage.
So if I have clarification question around, the reason I was asking when we saw it again, because when we saw it in February, it was denied. Is that correct?
That was, yes, that was
So I know we always have a question about how long before we can see it, what the stipulations are around that. Does that apply here or not?
that section still needs to be re,
I don't think it was single.
it wasn't in zoning.
It was for a higher density.
Any change that we had talked about?
So I wasn't here during that time. So what was denied? What was requested and what was denied?
We were trying to do multifamily back then.
I believe it was R3 multifamily.
Map.
Was commercial also a part of that?
Not at the time.
But you're saying commercial and single family would be less intensive than the R3 multifamily, so it wouldn't have to wait.
R3 map goes up to. per
Yes.
acre.
So 12, so it would be less intensive.
So this is like.
So that's why they're able to.
Like half.
Let's go ahead and open it to the public. So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing for rezone 2220 commercial homes by Roth.
Joey, a second.
We have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? So we did receive an email from Bruce and an email from Matt, and there was one other one I think I got today as well that are included in your package. And then you guys may be in the audience tonight, actually. So at this point, we are open to the public. So if anyone wishes to speak or have any comments or questions in regards to the development, we would ask that you come to the podium. Again, state your name and your address for the record.
Hi, thanks for having us today. My name is Randy Morgan at 1150 Elizabeth Drive. I am the POA president for Creekside neighborhood. So I'm up here and I believe there are several of my neighbors that are here as well that would also like to say a few words, but I'm up here really representing the 140 households that we have in our neighborhood today. I think much like the conversation that we had 6 months ago, I think it still stays the same in the fact that we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. This doesn't meet the actual or the same parameters around what this road has, with it being R2s on both sides of this. So it's just another fit in. Not only that, the whole conversation of adding commercial to this, I almost kind of back off the fact of what we changed it to, that we're not high density or multifamily anymore, more to the fact of taking us to a point of why we've decided to redo Greenhouse Road to begin with. And when we go back to the conversation of even where that happens, it was a simple fix. This is a major corridor. There are multiple emails and multiple things that have now pushed it through, where Greenhouse Road is being expanded for simple facts of there not being enough facilities and or opportunity for pedestrian, as well as it just being an unsafe road for the corridor that it's become. My thought and my hope for this would be is that this is something that is potentially readdressed when we fix the issue that we have with congestion and potential safety on this road, just adding not only now more residential, but now adding a commercial value to this, bringing even potential more people on an unsafe situation. So again, I would look to deny it at this point if it were me, just due to some of those simple facts. I'm looking at this at a different time. Thank you.
Tom Throne, I live at 1730 Quail Ridge Way. I speak in opposition.
Can you repeat your name?
Tom Throne, Throne.
Thank you.
I speak in opposition to this project, mainly, well, I have several things, but traffic is the main issue. There's only one egress out of this development that all flows onto Greenhouse. I live at Quail Ridge Way, which is the next street down from this proposed street. There are a lot of times when I can't even get onto the street to make a left-hand turn. Sometimes it's hard to get a right-hand turn, particularly at school times, beginning of the day, end of the day, when you're going to see a lot of people using that road coming out of that subdivision. I realize the Greenhouse is potentially being expanded over the next 3 to 5 years to increase the traffic flow. But immediately, if these guys start this now, you've got 39 units times 2 cars potentially coming out of that development every day, either making a left or right-hand turn onto that road, increasing that traffic. There are times, gentlemen, at the stoplight at Greenhouse and Regional Airport, and at the other end where it hits 102, that traffic's back up to Kimmel on the north end, backed up to the second entrance of Quail Ridge on my street, where I have trouble getting out. And Fortunately, I have a way to get around it because I can go west and find other egresses out of my community. These guys can't. They have one way in and one way out. And then that traffic is all coming on the greenhouse. While the density on it is down from where it was in February, it's still pretty high at 37 units. At potentially 2 cars apiece or 3 cars. And it's not consistent with what's in that area. Across the street is low density, single family. To the south is low density, single housing. To the north is low density, single housing. And if you go west, adjacent to where that is, they've got 2 houses at that far west end. And with the commercial component in there that's proposed now, that adds more traffic, making left and right hand turns into that commercial development. Plus you have the traffic coming in and out to the housing unit. And my last question is, okay, so we're putting a trail in there. Where's it going? Trail coming out on the greenhouse now? People are walking in the ditch and greenhouse up and down there, trying to get around, and it just in general. So I question where a trail is going to go until greenhouse is developed. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So I'm Harold Castro, I live on 1501 Bill Ridge Way. Just like the same as last time, same arguments, stand still.
So sorry, could you repeat your name and address?
Harold Castro, 1501 Bill Ridge Way.
Thank you.
So from my viewpoint, it is not compatible with adjacent land use. It's a bit of a stretch to say it is, being that you're gonna be putting way more housing density in an area that adjacent to it is all single family homes that are way, I mean, you guys stated that, but I just don't know how you guys come up with that and say that it is. The commercial aspect of it, there's no commercial around there, so it's kind of wild to put that. I know it's something that people want for some urban development and planning and development, but it doesn't fit that. It doesn't fit the area. It also doesn't fit the master plan, right? Like you guys spent a lot of money on the master plan. This was supposed to be R2, just like the adjacent communities, but now we're saying, oh, hold on, we don't want to look at the master plan because we're just gonna decide to do something different. I think that that goes against the money that was spent. And then the last question, it always comes up, and I find it odd. Every time we say, who does it benefit? And we always say it doesn't benefit the landowner. But the reality is this property lot was purchased for development, right? So they want to put as many units as they can to get the most money out of it. Because if it wasn't, they would build R2 residences, right? They would just build standard R2 residences and make enough profit and just move on. But no, they want to maximize the profit out of the property. So it really does only benefit the single landlord, because it doesn't benefit any of us that live in the area. We don't get anything out of that. There's mention of a trail and development, but again, the trail doesn't go anywhere. It goes to greenhouse that you can use, and you can walk, and it'll end pretty much in my backyard, which is just a pond and a stream. So it doesn't go anywhere. So then there's no benefit there to anybody else other than the current landowner. And that's what I want everybody to consider. Like, you got to take a step back, take an independent look from it, and really consider, are you answering the questions in an impartial way? Or are you really looking just to continue to develop the area and answering it in a way that you feel will get the benefit to the current landowner, which is the developer? And I get it, they've done a lot of great things for the community. They've grown the community, but at the same time, this really only benefits the current landowner, which is the developer. Because why otherwise we have bought that lot? And also, let's remember, on the last meeting, they said the reason why they want to push to this high density is because they didn't do their diligence. And when they didn't do the diligence, they realized, like, oh, hold on a second. If I want to develop it, I have to build the right of way. And I also have to put more units in to make it profitable, because otherwise it won't be, right? So when we answer these questions, I want you to be impartial and really look at the facts and not just say, okay, yeah, it's fine. And I just want to remind everybody, this was shut down last time, and it's very similar development. I know there's semantics right now about the amount of housing that is going in, but it's pretty darn close to the same one as last time, and we're going to put more commercial in there now. So those are my 2 cents. I know some of us residents feel frustrated because we're not heard a lot of the time. So hopefully you guys listen to what we're trying to say. A lot of people couldn't make it today, so I was hoping in the future, if you guys could spread out the hearings, maybe 2 days. A lot of parents have issues, especially today with the buses running late, they couldn't make it. So that's one thing I would like you guys to consider in the future. Also have, like, in just one session, have multiple sessions so people can attend. But thank you for the time.
Hello, my name is Bruce Barkley. I live at 1330 Elizabeth Loop. It's an email that I sent in. And I'd like to read some of that. I'll try not to bore you by reading the whole thing, but I was present at the last hearing, and one of the things I want to start with again is that I moved to Centerton 2 years ago, and I love Centerton, and we're really happy to be here, and it's a great place. And I love that you have a master plan, a comprehensive plan. And I think what you'll hear from the residents, we directly back up to it. So, you know, we're always wondering about what the next step's going to be. That's why we felt good about having a master and a comprehensive plan. We know something might happen there. Let's just do the right thing. I think that's kind of my theme here. So what I said in my note, and I'll try not to read it all word for word, but thank you for allowing me to address this. On February 15th, the Planning Commission heard the arguments against rezoning the property and going from agricultural to high density residential. The commission aptly listened to homeowners' concerns from the neighborhood about the high density housing plan. And then decided that it wasn't a good idea for the future of Centerton. And I applaud the commission for doing that. And we're here to ask the same thing, that we'd like to work with people to do the right thing in this area. As you can see, that plot of land is something that's sandwiched between neighborhoods that are all very similar there. And the commercial aspect to this is a little shot, I think. That was unexpected. And as you well know, Greenhouse Road has plenty of commercial designations on the end in your master plan where that meets 14th. And that's a great place to go. We love getting up there to the neighborhood Walmart, and we have our services right there. We'd love to walk along that road at one point. We know there's plans for that in Greenhouse Road. So what I've written here is that we're faced with a plan that asks for variances to that low density plan in the city's master plan and asks for commercial designation part of the land facing Greenhouse Road. This looks like we're moving in the opposite direction. There's nothing that shows commercial use in the area would be consistent with how the city sees its future development. This is an idea that's even more out of line with neighborhoods than the previous request that was denied, and simply, I believe, a bad idea. Homeowners in our neighborhood expected a developer to see the value in putting single-family homes in this land rather. But we urge the Planning Commission to stick to that consistent use of land if they feel rezoning is needed. Another factor is that increased traffic on Greenhouse Road. And I just want to make the example of, the other day, a pickup truck driver went through not just one backyard, but two backyard fences, ran over the playground set, and ended up at the backyard porch. And it's just one of those things that we worry about living along there that can happen because of the congestion, the speed limit's too high. That's another issue for another day. But we just feel like if we want to do smart development in that area, we want to fix Greenhouse Road, we want to keep the neighborhoods intact and have these great places to live like we have now. I've written it here. We do it the Centerton way, and hopefully that means we're talking to each other about things. You know, we've heard nothing from Roth Homes other than they're frustrated about the fact that they bought land that they can't do with what they planned. But that's, that's one of those homework things. And we did our homework before we bought our house. So, we ask you all to look at it that way. Thanks for letting me address you.
Hello. My name is Mike Sullivan. I live at 1310 Elizabeth Loop. I was not a part of the last meeting. We sent our issues in, much like what my neighbors are articulating. I haven't seen anything substantial that's changed here. In fact, if you look at the plot and you look at the size that the proposal is laying out, it's 0.11, two houses, 0.11 versus 0.24, which is the size of our development. So essentially, two houses for every one. So if you think about it from, is it compatible with existing neighborhoods? I don't know how you can make that argument. That was shot down last time. So if you look to the meeting notes last time, is this proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? It was a resounding no. It has not changed this time. So instead of calling it a multifamily, he's just putting single dwelling units. 0.11, two houses for every one in our neighborhood. So I think that just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't live up to the standard Safety, that's a real big issue. That just happened. That was mentioned. That was very scary. Put yourself in that position, your backyard, you're out having a cup of coffee, barbecuing, and a truck comes plowing into your backyard. God forbid if there was any children, anybody, you know, you know, on the premises. So safety cannot be, I think, overstated. And I would just say that, I mean, there's an abundance of wildlife back there. It is absolutely beautiful. Why not consider making it into some sort of green space? You know, stepping back, can the town step up and reconfigure this piece of land into something that's more beneficial and green? If you could see the wildlife that's in this on this premises, it's that impressive. So I can't overstate or make a more articulate argument that my neighbors have made with congestion and compatibility, but I think there's a beauty factor. It's just a very special piece of property that I think it deserves better. And this plan to me just, it's not compatible. It doesn't fit with the existing neighborhoods. So, thank you.
My name's Susan Barkley, 1330 Elizabeth Loop. I back up to this property and I don't know if any of y'all know this property, but when we moved in, a family lived in the house on that property. They had a swimming pool. The swimming pool's still there. The house is still there. They unfortunately had to move and sold the property. But it was one family on this gorgeous plot of land. And like my neighbor said, it is magnificent. There are trees that have got to be so old here. I mean, they are just unbelievable. And the wildlife, and it is a really nice area. And if there is going to be some bike path or something, what a great place to have Centerton have, you know, little benches and all kinds of things for people to enjoy these gorgeous trees instead of all these neighborhoods that just get clear cut and we have dinky little trees in everybody's front yard and that's it. And that's considered a subdivision. I mean, we're the natural state, right? I don't understand why, like my other neighbor said, we're trying to cram all this stuff into this little area that just doesn't make any sense. And we were on the road that day when that pickup truck went through those two houses. I mean, that's just terrifying. There's no, the Quail Ridge neighborhood is the only neighborhood that actually planned ahead and has a ditch and some grassy area. I mean, everything else, it's just your tire hits, you're off the road. So just, I mean, if you don't know that area, it's a shame, but it really, it's very, very tiny. And there are, the house is still standing. There's a house and a swimming pool and a barn. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Matt Mayans, 1290 Elizabeth Loop.
What was your name, sir?
Matt Mayans. I sent an email as well, and it's a very similar email to the one that I sent in February, because this, as a lot of people have mentioned, is basically the same request as we had in February. I think the developer at the time explained, hey, I'm not building apartments. This is going to be a series of townhomes, which basically is what we're looking at today. So I don't really think there have been any changes from what was already a decline. We've got more detail. I think we had last time. The detail is not very appealing. Nowhere else in the city is this kind of density crammed in between sections of lower density. The city's plan puts this higher density towards the major corridors. Everyone's mentioned the traffic on Greenhouse. If you've driven there, you've seen it yourself. The developer mentioned last time that there's already some commercial on Greenhouse nearby, and that's that little square just above Grace Place near Creekside. Yeah, right around where the mouse cursor is. If you drive by there, it's clear that that doesn't fit. It's clear that it's a bit of a blight on the area. And I challenge you to drive by that and think we need more of these little pockets of commercial in this already crowded area. I know that neighbors have complained about tires and refuse and environmental concerns, having that commercial right behind their backyard fences. I question if that's a good idea to create more of that. I also don't believe it's honest that the only way to make this economically feasible is to cram 36 units on it. The developer purchased this property for, I think it was $600,000 cheap. I imagine there's a lot of people in this area who would buy that property for a heartbeat, for a few pennies more than that amount. Also, certainly the traffic safety, but also fire safety. I think it was mentioned that there's only one ingress to the proposed new development. There are times of the day when you cannot turn left or right or get into any of those neighborhoods. If there's a fire and someone living in this new development between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock or 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, that full development, which I think the proposal is for these buildings to have 5 feet of side buffer, the whole development is gone. I think this would be a lose for the surrounding homeowners in Creekside and Quail Ridge. This would be a lose for new homeowners who would move into this development. So the list of people that this benefits is slim, and I think that should be considered. I hope you make the same decision that you've already made on this in February. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Just want to add a couple of things. From last time to this time, there's 12 less units and they are on their own lots. These will all be 2,000 or more square foot houses. They're all single family houses. We're 70 feet from the house to the lot line on the north side, and we're 100 feet from the house to the lot line on the south side, which is huge. There's nowhere like that. Not only do they have to give the right of way, they have to build the 30-foot street that they can't access except from the 2 access points from their private drive that they're building. The commercial is neighborhood commercial. You can't put in a gas station or a automotive shop, or it's more like a coffee shop or neighborhood shopping or something like that. It's nothing, it can't be big. It's the lowest commercial you can put. So basically it's all you can that will fit there. I mean, if you went to R2, you could put 13 or 14 lots, but you couldn't afford, you'd have $150,000, $200,000 lots stuck in there, just build the streets and to develop the lots and add the water and sewer and the trail and everything that goes along with it. So this is the only thing that will really work there. Well, I have y'all.
The 2 points of ingress and egress. Where's the second?
We're building, that's a public street in that 90-foot right of way. And there's 2, it says.
Connects to the well.
There's 2, this will be a separate development off of that public street. So it's got a east and west coming off of it, it's a horseshoe. But of that public street, it only has one access until it continues west.
Donna, there was a question about the trail in that area. What does the master trail look like?
Are several rail connections, actually. This dotted blue line here is the McKissick Spring Trail Loop. The green dashed line going through the green Park is a proposed 10-foot side path. The dashed kind of magenta lines are proposed Northwest Arkansas trails. And the dashed orangey lines directly north are natural surface trails that are proposed.
Thank you.
But the road wouldn't connect to any of those though. Because it would end way before it reaches any of the trails that you have, the green one or any of the other ones. The only one that you would theoretically connect would be the greenhouse, which I don't think
This,
anybody can do.
this will go through the edge of the property and would go all the way through these natural systems. This is a proposed McKissick Springs loop, would go along the arterial and will go along Greenhouse.
That's after.
This connects to the natural system.
But the whole arterial has to be built in order to connect to any of those trails,
The arterial will be built as part of this development.
but not all the way to Buckhorn Flats. You're gonna stop right before the stream. That's what the plan development that they propose. It's not gonna go all the way through. Because that's Jeff Parker's property right there. You're not gonna go through that property now.
Yeah, it's a different piece of property.
At this time, that is the plan.
Well, the Miss property?
No, at this time, the plan is to end here.
There's no connection.
But the trails plan is to connect.
Yes.
I guess you guys haven't been back there, right? Because it's like, if you go right to where you're saying it's connecting, there's a pond and a swamp. So somebody somehow you
We're
get,
aware of that.
so how they're gonna connect? Basically, I just wanna know, because I mean, I don't see it connecting.
It's connecting trails all over in
So
the.
as things develop, trails get built and
Yeah.
dedicated, so you have to start somewhere.
And
But not with this bill, like this bill won't get you.
Well, it's a piece of it.
Yeah.
And that's how you get.
I think we're getting off topic, Jeff. Let's get back on topic on the reason, please.
There was a question, Tony, so I thought I would at least show that there is a plan out there and some of it does come pretty close to this, so. Are there,
To bring up one more point, as far as Greenhouse Road, Bentonville, Centerton are working on doing the improvements to Greenhouse Road. The traffic on Greenhouse Road has always been an issue along the width of the road and the drop off shoulders. It's been that way for the last 20 years that I've been here. But it is flexible so that it can handle the traffic, because that is one of the few connections that we have.
and
You don't put a gas station.
a gas station is not permitted by right with this zoning.
Starbucks.
What you say?
all right, is there anyone else that wishes to speak before we close the public hearing?
I would just make one final comment.
Hold on. Oh, if you want to address us, we need you at the podium with your name for the record so that we have it and we can address you if there's a question. So if you'd like to speak, we would ask that you do that for us.
Sure. I think what you're hearing from the group is the road is so congested, it can't handle additional volume. Why would you bring something incremental in?
give your name?
Something new, Mike Sullivan, 1310
Sir,
Elizabeth.
can you give the name?
Why not wait? I think what everybody's saying is, it makes no sense right now with congestion. What harm is there to wait? Talked about Greenhouse Road, there's development plans, expansion plans. Well, let's wait. Wait till the expansion plans go into place, go into effect. Wouldn't that be the sensible thing to do? Instead of trying to bring more congestion and development to an overly congested road as it is, that has safety concerns. It took me 10 minutes to get out tonight to come here at 5:40. 10 minutes to leave. You can only imagine what it's like in the morning. It could be 25 minutes, depending on the day. So anyway, that's all. I think the prudent thing to do would be to wait. Develop Greenhouse Road, expand it, and then it would make sense to consider incremental development.
So we can't impose that restriction of not developing a specific piece of property. Just so you know, and if you were in the seller or the owner's shoes, I think you might have a different perspective.
I think it's a nice piece of property that has the potential to be developed properly. I just think in good time. Now's not the time. That's just my view, and a lot of others. Thank you.
Matthew Friedman. I live at 1621 Quail Ridge. Before this was shut down because of the commercial, not the commercial part, but the high density. Right now, with the commercial part, I believe that we're getting back to the high density traffic. I would suggest you guys look at how many traffic accidents have happened on this road recently in the last 6 months and last year. It's been increasing. Last night, I pulled somebody from a car that had an accident. A month ago, I also did. How many accidents are they really doing? I have a benefit that I do have a CPR and I'm Eagle Scout. I understand how to do it. So I do give that service to the community. But are we going to increase that so much by increasing the traffic on this road? I don't think this is what is proposed today is the correct solution for how the road is and what is around the area. I hope that you guys can see that, and I hope you guys suggest that it stays what it is right now and it develops under the current zoning. Thank you.
Can I ask
Prior discussion.
Yes.
Are we at that place or not?
Brandon has a quick question for Art for the.
Our team, but
Absolutely.
just a quick question. So the commercial piece that's up front. And again, if I'm new, so this might be a silly question. That commercial piece, when added back in as a residential piece, does it put the property, because I don't know the numbers and the square footage and all that stuff, does it put that property back at R2?
No.
It does not. Okay.
The unsquare lot that someone said was like eighth of an acre. It's already gonna be above what that density is.
Okay.
And then they're all housed currently with what they are, going to have to be sprinkled anyway. As well for the fire code. Someone mentioned that too. So I know. That the commercial's not gonna change that or get rid of that. About half the size of the proposed lots are about half the size of an R2 lot.
Thank you.
There's an overlap between the R2 and the R3 on how many units per acre. And then what they're proposing. But the R3 single family goes up to about 6 units per acre. So that's not what they're, so that's not what they'll be proposing, but it is something that you would, look at. But it's like up to, it's the same as. Well, you doing the whole development. Even if you have that commercial piece and I just wanted to speak on what we had talked about, like for the commercial was basically you've got the trail system there and it'd be a great place for people to trail. To have some retail areas to stop. Is what I had heard, I don't know anything about it, a fuel station there. So. But
It's not for me.
that was the purpose of the commercial. But
Jeff Roth. Owned by Roth, most hated guy in the room right now. So we don't have any plans of anything to go on the commercial. We just think that over time that there's going to be a need for that on greenhouse. Not right now. Now is not the time for it. I agree 100%. So we don't have a gas station plan to go in there or anything like that. It's not going to be accessed off a greenhouse. It's actually going to have to come off of the road that we're putting in and then back in behind. We actually gave up a lot to be able to have access to the commercial property. So we're not going to be have creating that danger that everybody's worried about coming off a greenhouse directly into commercial. It's not, that's not how you access it. You know, we're working real hard on affordable housing Northwest Arkansas, and you don't do that by just building 12 houses on a piece of property like that. I know it's hard for everybody to understand, but we're not gonna do anything that's gonna embarrass anybody or, you know, last time it was people were worried about the hoodlum influence of rental and all that sort of stuff. These houses are gonna be built to be sold. They're gonna be very nice, all masonry product, being very nice homes. So we, you know, as far as the egress go, I know Joey, you had a question about that. You know, we talked to Matt about it and he's great with the way we've got it. He said, hey, what you guys are doing, we're building that public street. So the entrance we got at the east end and the entrance we got at the west end meets their needs.
But technically it doesn't, so we have to sprinkle the homes, correct?
Well, yeah, you know, in a perfect world, you don't have to sprinkle them, but I mean, having that, that's the reason why it's two entrance.
You see that by 2 points of access, but I understand the hardship.
That's what we've got there. I mean, we're paying to put that road in, so we've got the two entrances. I mean, Paul, maybe help me explain that a little bit, but.
Not the entrances.
How we get away with the one entrance at this time? The code has a gray area in it. Due to that, it is a city developed or in development project. It's actually on the master street plan. It is 100% going to happen. The city's going to do it. That allows them to be able to have that. Now, is it preferred? And we've had long conversations and we've all come to an agreement. Is it preferred that they're sprinkler? Absolutely they are, but they don't have to be because of, this is a city project. It's already dedicated. It's going through. We don't like using it, but due to the master street plan, this being an arterial, the chances of it getting built someday, it's going to happen. So that's how they're able to do that.
We're all for helping, you know, what's best for the city. We think this is best. I mean, we actually gave up Featherston, you know, the trail did get put in across the street on the north side. So we wound up giving up property on that project so that we could put a trail in. I didn't have to do that, but it was the right thing to do for the city. You know, because without that trail, it was incomplete. So we gave that up, but anyway, at the end of the day, I can tell you on Randy would be here, but he had to go to Oklahoma City with his wife, but we won't do anything to embarrass you. That's all I can say. And I don't think we're going to be creating any safety, you know, issues with that commercial piece that we're talking about up front. We don't have any immediate plans for anything. I just think in the future, there's going to be a need for it, but the important thing is it's not going to be accessed off a greenhouse. It'll be accessed off of the road that we're going to be paying. Actually, what goes in the backside of our subdivision. So if anything, we're taking potential traffic off a greenhouse. So that's kind of long and short of it. But you know, in order to make this work, we need to have this you know, this higher density rather than just going in and building 10, 12 houses. I get it. I understand, beautiful place. Would it, you know, I was here when we put Quail Ridge in. You know, I used to sit out on the back decks of the house. I built all the houses on the west side of Quail Ridge. And in the morning I'd get there and I sit on the back deck. And I'd drink coffee and watch the deer. You know, I do understand, but can't stop growth. I mean, we got people coming in, we got to have a place for them to live. So, but anyway, thank y'all.
One final call if anyone else wishes to speak.
Sarah Sullivan, 10 Elizabeth Loop. I have a question about the road that you were talking about. I thought that the only way out was to greenhouse and that it wasn't going all the way through because there's a homeowner who won't approve it. Is that right?
Right this minute.
Right this minute. And I don't believe they want to go through to the other side, which would take it to Buckholm, right? But right now, there is no way for any of the traffic to get out unless it goes through to Greenhouse.
Today. That's correct.
Okay.
Quail Ridge was in the same boat for a long time. It was just in and out. There was no back way for a long time.
Right, but if the
It
homeowner
just happens.
approval, that means,
You had a different developer back to that. I mean,
Yeah, so we look at the master street plan, which there are streets that people question why they're there as a proposal or part of the master street plan for the same reason. But as we think about connectivity, again, Harold talked about the fact that we spent a lot of money and time on the master plan that included lots of discussion around where we put roads to connect people north and south, east and west. And so we don't necessarily look at where a home's at. We don't look at a particular homeowner. We don't look at whose friend lives there. We look at where the connectivity of the future of the city belongs. And that's how we design and put streets on plans. And so that's the reason that there may be that connectivity there. It's been a couple of years since we visited with it. So we don't look at a homeowner and go, will that homeowner ever sell to us? That's not the way that we look at it. We look at how we need this east and west and north and south connectivity.
so
And then the developer actually has to build the street based on what is on that. So instead of him just building a little 20-foot street to try to get out, he's actually has to give up and build a street to that standard so that in the future, when it does connect, it's already built. And so that's one of the things that this particular developer would have to do. Any developer would have to do it, but that's one of the things that they have to do is to build that to the standards of what's on that master street plan.
but right now, there's no exit out of that neighborhood that is proposed behind us to get out the other way.
Correct.
So the only way they can go out is to Greenhouse.
Correct.
And there's no expansion on Greenhouse. And it's not being done in, like, when is that going to be started?
It's already started.
No, it hasn't. There's ditches. Yeah.
It's under design right now.
It's under design, but there's ditches on the side of the road. That's it. And it doesn't sound like it's gonna be done anytime soon. So I'm just curious.
No, it's under design currently. Engineers are designing.
They haven't started.
Proposal on the alignment that they've had a public hearing on. So yes, it is under design and yes, it is being bid out next year.
Okay.
That's just
I
getting-
just wanted everybody to understand, because I got confused. I thought he said that there was a way out of the neighborhood through the back.
Not what he said.
I think you just said it just looks back into that.
Wow. Okay, all right, thank you.
Luke Marple, 2004, Southwest Commerce. It's kind of a question, two questions. One, on one side, we're talking about, well, the master plan is going to get us to the safe component. What people are concerned about is, well, what happens until that master plan comes to pass? We are creating an unsafe environment. And we're making a decision here to do that. There's an accountability that should come with that. And it's better to prevent the issues or wait until it is safe before we move forward with that. And I get the people that own the land, we need to account for that as well. But they also bought the land knowing that full well, knowing that in February, we already turned this down. This is not the first time this conversation has happened. I want to respect that we've gone through this process. And the second piece is probably more of a question for you. When we were here earlier and we had this conversation months ago, my understanding was that we're voting on rezoning it. And there's proposed solutions, but those solutions can change, right? No one's beholden to that. So if they make a decision to change that, because they can make a few extra dollars, they can make a change. You know, we can get up here and we talk about, yeah, I had coffee there and this was, you know, a real beautiful spot. Well, we know that because we live there. But the reality is now that same person is in a position to gain money and gain profit from that. And they should. I mean, that's country we live in and we should honor that. But that doesn't change the fact that there's going to be a period of time until the master plan comes and makes that a safer environment. And if we just look at the reality of why we're here today, there's already been a master plan. We're here to change them. We're here to change a plan. So plans change and it's just, it's a concern that, you know, we want to just make sure that it's taken into consideration and give my say. So I also just want to say, I do appreciate the position you guys are in. And I respect it a lot, whatever your decisions are. I'll live by it. Don't be the choices you need to make, but I do respect it.
One thing that's ironic, I know y'all are just seeing this, but when you're all subdivision was in this state, people that you love that house and that pool, they didn't like you all very well for doing that. So it's just a full circle back sometimes. And I believe it tried to come in as an R3 and you all, there's some people in here fought for an R2 that y'all live in. So I mean, there's just sometimes you see what's here, and like Jeff was saying, you gotta almost be kind of proactive, because if you're not proactive, you're killing things that could be futuristically, like we'd killed that, y'all wouldn't be living where y'all live today. I mean, it's just coming full circle, but there was a lot of landowners there you don't even know that were there across the street and stuff, and they fought to not get what's there now. And I only know one piece of property out there that he was willing to sell at the heartbeat, but the rest of them are like, we're losing our deer, our field, the ponds. So it's a full circle. So that's like, I appreciate you saying what you did, because that's really where we get in these positions. Sometimes we have to look at a lot of stuff to figure this out. So it's not just a knee jerk reaction that we do. I mean, because we've been there with even your subdivision before, and it was a bigger piece of property, and there's a lot of prettier, a lot of more deer, and there was a lot of farms out there that become. So I'm sorry, I'd say it. So
Brenda Moyes, Moyes, 1541 Quill Ridge Way. I think that to try to compare the traffic at the time that the Quail Ridge neighborhood was developed compared to this one now is completely apples and oranges. I've lived on Quail Ridge Way now for 8 years. When we bought our house, Greenhouse Road was really kind of sleepy by comparison. But that was before you had all the development that goes out towards the airport, and all of the development in Centerton, and as well as the development that's occurred on either side of Kimmel Road, that now all dumps out onto Greenhouse Road. So, you know, the safety of the road is just ridiculous right now. And my neighbor Tom is completely correct when he says that currently at say 7:30 in the morning, if you're trying to come out Quail Ridge and make a left-hand turn onto Greenhouse, the traffic is literally backed up from the light at Regional Airport, actually past Quail Ridge Way, so that it would be impossible to make a left-hand turn because you can't see past the cars that are lined up, you know, backed up from the light. You can't see past them to make a left turn. To know that there's anybody coming from the other direction, even if somebody's waving you through, it's completely unsafe. And to dump more traffic out onto the road before that road is properly developed just makes no sense at all. Thank you.
68 Front Street. I'd just like to point out on the comprehensive plan on page 10. There's a big underestimate in our growth. It says that projected population of Centerton in 2024, 17,944. We're currently at 17,792. So we can argue we've already met what we expected to be, and we're above that. I'm certain we're above 17,000. I don't see how anybody could argue by adding houses, you're lessening traffic or lessening the density or anything like that. We're adding traffic to a road that cannot handle the current traffic. Adding traffic adds traffic. It's not going to help. We should consider the infrastructure. Adding to this portion, we're taking away from everything else as well. Water, electric, everything. Last year, they said that we were near catastrophic failure in our water. This is a problem. We need to allow our infrastructure to catch up so that the growth, all we're doing is setting people up for failure. And I'm worried when we say something about gray areas, when we're talking about safety. Why would we cut a corner now? What if there's something happened, catastrophic there with fire? And we cut a corner because we could, and now somebody's in trouble. We're in a lot of the positions we are in the city because we've cut corners and allowed things to happen that should not have happened. Let's do it right now. And then move forward with the balanced growth. Infrastructure is a priority and it's necessary. It's vital to our growth.
Can I ask a question? Do I have to come up there to ask a question just for the board? Has there been a traffic study done on volume, the amount of volume that's on that road every day?
There has been.
There has been. Yes, I can say yes, there has been. I can confirm.
Can you share those numbers? What's the data development right now?
Got it. I'm trying to find it right here.
What's your name, sir?
I can email you a traffic count tomorrow.
Elizabeth Blue. Thank you.
No, we have, Bentonville has fiber now to that signal, Greenhouse Road on the floor. And there are counts available at any given point in time of day for that.
I just
You
think
have to go to the city of, you have to go to the city of Bentonville to get that.
And I will say that 36 units is a drop in the bucket compared to what's coming down that road every day. I completely understand the argument. But there's a ton of that.
That's the thing, you have to. There's no relief, you're just piling them on.
That's
I think the point to make it is you can see it's already overly projected at another 36. You know, but that's the issue obviously we're raising, and that's the number I think that matters. It can't handle it right now. You know, it's not handling what we currently have right now. Relevant needs to happen on that road.
Yeah, and it's not consistent with the master plan or the adjacent houses, right?
Can you all please come up to the podium if you're speaking?
So he wanted to ask a question. I allowed him to ask a question.
Thank you.
Comments? No. Unless you want to approach the podium.
Oh, yeah, I'll approach it. I mean, I know everybody's Harold Castro, 1501 Quill Ridge Way. I know everybody's talking about traffic, but I think also the missing part is that we're trying to change the zoning to fit something that's not in the master plan, right? Which will add more density to the area, because it's supposed to, I think it's master plan for R2. So why can't he just build R2 and be consistent with the plan? And I don't think so many people will complain about that, right? It's the fact that you're changing the master plan to adhere to a developer that he's saying out of the creation of his art is gonna build this, but if you do the math, 2,000 square feet for 39 houses at an average lowball price of 120 square foot, that's over $10 million. So we're talking about a lot of money that he's gonna make. Yes, he's gonna have costs that are gonna go in, but I think he's gonna end up with a significant amount of income resulting from this investment. Now, can he do R2? I'm sure he could do R2, but he's not gonna make $9 million. Right? So what we're talking about here is really, one, you're increasing density and traffic, but it's being derivative of the fact that you have to change our master plan to accommodate those needs, and they're not consistent. I don't know why everybody's all the time says, yes, it is consistent with the development. It is not. It's all zoned for R2. Now, if you went in and built R2 in that section, there will be no complaining from anybody because we couldn't argue it because it's consistent. But the problem is you're adding a commercial space that is not consistent. The closest commercial space that's available that somebody mentioned is in Bentonville. It's not even Centerton, right? It's zoned for Bentonville, so it's not Centerton. So none of those things are consistent, and you change the master plan to it, and everybody's kind of saying like, oh, we're just building for future growth. No, you're going away from the master plan. And if that's the case, then just let us know, because then I'll change my house to A1. So I don't have to pay the taxes everybody pays, right? Because that would be fair to me. Because that place right now, if you go look at the tax record, pays less taxes than all of the homeowners in those streets in the area, right? So it's extremely unfair that we're saying, oh, it's all because of traffic. It's not just traffic. You're changing the master plan to fit his needs and the needs of a developer, not the needs of the resident. Focus on the residents, and that's what you guys should be adhering to. Sorry.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Yeah, this happens all the time. Quail Ridge. I was around when Quail Ridge was developed, when Don Marley developed Quail Ridge. It was agricultural. I mean, this was all cattle farmland. So when it comes time for him to build a house, he has to rezone it to R1 to put a subdivision in. So one time or another, we're all rezoning it. I mean, it may start out, something at one time, but rezoning is nothing uncommon. I mean, it's very common. I mean, every subdivision out there. I mean, both these subdivisions on either side of me were agricultural at one time. I mean, this was out in the country. I mean, we're building, I mean, I grew up out here. I never in a million years thought I'd be building houses like I am in Centerton. You know? Behind Tamaron, I grew up a stone's throw behind Tamaron. And I mean, we had to do that. We've had to come in and rezone all this stuff. Used to be farmland, you know, Bull Ridge, we used to be out in the country. I mean, that used to be out that town, you know, so now it's in town, you know, it's like Centerton has grown into suburb of Bentonville. So everybody's rezoned. I mean, this whole rezoning thing, the master plan, yeah, it starts out at one thing, but then you wind up with another depending on what you want to go with. But a good example is Quail Ridge was agricultural. And they had to get rezoned to R1 when Dan did this because it wasn't zoned right to build houses, because it was pasture for cows. So, and we have a lot of them out there that are that way. You know, the farther we get out of town, the more we got to rezone. So rezoning is nothing new, nothing, you know, nothing out of the ordinary. You guys know that as well as I do. So to say that, you know, we have to stick with the master plan of zoning is crazy. We'd never have growth if that was the case. I mean, we'd wind up with a mess, but you know, my point is rezoning is not anything new to city business and to construction contractors, to developers and whatnot, as you guys well know. So anyways, just want to leave it at that. Thank you.
Matthew Freeman, 1621 Quail Street Way, Quail Ridge Way, sorry. Two questions. From my understanding, the master plan was done 2 years ago. Is that correct?
These two, actually, it was in about, was it 2019?
It was passed in like 2020.
In October 21. Was it really? October 21. So
October 21.
time flies. I can't believe we made that through.
So,
Did we really?
so we're into it 1 year.
Past it. Past.
So my understanding, we're into it 1 year. Is that correct?
2020. Over 2020. It was passed in October of 2020.
October 27th, 2020.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're shy of 2 years into it then. Is that correct?
And the work before that, we spent about 9 months on it, just so that you know, and then there was about a 6-month period of some discussion before it was finally passed. So in all reality, it's about 3.5, it's probably going on 3.5 years.
So it was passed 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Just shy. Okay, how long was that master plan expected to be valid for?
We wanted to revisit it in, let's say, 5 years.
5 years.
But in all reality, the big work, 10 years. If there's not a lot of changes.
Okay.
I think it was longer than that. I think it was 2040.
I'd have to go back and look at it exactly, but we were gonna try to redo it in 10 years though.
Right. So even if it was in 10 years, we're only into it 30% of the time. Okay, I don't think we should be changing so many things around it to align with what they would like to have when everything inside the area shows that it should not. It's just a statement.
My end's 1290 Elizabeth Loop. Just a quick comment on the rezoning points the developer brought up. I mean, we don't put sex shops in schools. We don't put industrial next to neighborhoods. We don't, you know, cram high density in the middle of lower density because it affects the feeling of a community and the cohesion. So certainly progress is going to happen. We need progress, but there's also progress that is in the wrong direction, and that's what this is. A couple other things, it mentioned affordable housing. These are going to be 2,000 square feet at $200 a foot, which is what these neighborhoods are right now. You're talking $400,000 homes that is above the median, doesn't qualify. That's affordable housing. And again, on the safety, the proposed road that will connect eventually doesn't do anyone any good. If there's a fire, do they move in a year from now? They won't be able to get help. And I did recently talk to a member of the Bentonville Planning Commission, and I mentioned the Greenhouse Road expansion is coming later rather than sooner. I think the timeline is probably 3 years plus from when they start. They have to move utilities. That's a 2025 at best project, and I think everyone knows that. So this isn't going to be ready for this type of a project anytime soon. Thanks.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
John, I motion to close the public hearing for rezone 2022-20.
Devin, second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Devin or
Andy, you want?
Yeah, Devin. I'm gonna try to mention what was brought up, one being, of course, traffic, compatibility. Were the two main issues that I would sum up based on the comments. Before we go through what we need to consider, are there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners or staff? Keep in mind that after this, there is an additional public hearing on the PUD that would overlay this if it is rezoned. So keep that in mind.
if I could bring up one, I kind of touched on it before. R3 single family is medium to high. And then R2 is that low to medium. That's where that medium overlaps. And as far as compatibility, I mean, they're looking at single family. That's what's around there, is the single family. So as far as use, and I know that we've had that issue but that consideration to make in other developments or zoning request, looking at that use. And it's not multifamily. You know, it's just, it may be higher density or it may be compatible, but it's in that range, that in between. So just some. There.
Is the rezoning consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, including the adopted land use plan? If not, why?
I'm gonna say no because of the commercial. Right off the bat. There's arguments to be made either way on the single family. However, with what Lorraine just said, there is that middle point where they could both kick over, but looking at their layout, they're not in that middle point. They're actually asking to make those lot sizes smaller than R3.
Is any other thoughts on the being compatible with the comprehensive plan?
I concur with the commercial spot not being compatible there at that location. There's not a connected intersection there at that location currently. I don't foresee it being ideal location for commercial at that spot.
With those two things being said, I'm gonna say, at least from the left side, so I'll get some nods from the right side as well, but from a consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, mostly leaning towards the commercial, but to the point that there are some additional lots asked for in there to make it a higher density. Is everybody's thoughts that it's not in line with the adopted land use plan?
Yes, Jeff. Yes.
Is the proposed rezoning compatible with the surrounding area and zones? And I believe that the single family request is definitely compatible with the surrounding area and zones. I've seen these row houses happen in a lot of different places, honestly. And that's what I call them, as a row house. But it's still a single family. So it would be individually owned. So at least in my opinion, I say that it is. You know, I agree. Unfortunately, I was thinking about this commercial piece and, I think out west, when we asked for that, commercial at a corner, it made sense. And then I didn't think about that till you brought it up, Tony. But in my mind, the single family is compatible. The commercial is what I'm struggling with as well. And certainly opened up for any comments or discussion.
Was there a reason, a justification presented as to why it was dedicated for commercial? Was that just future, just in case, or was there a reason we had to?
There was no reason.
Commercial. Why they were asking for commercial, partly because of the lots being able to access those lots. It didn't lend itself, we didn't want a drive right. We turn off, because this is an arterial that is intended to go clear across to 102 at least, so.
You could,
In order to set back.
Just leave it.
Right.
you're loaded.
So that left, a commercial. It left a large lot that could be used for commercial, and with it being a future arterial, which is a large, a large road that.
That would then lead itself to the intersection, right?
Owned by,
So in that
trail
was-
system, it would lend itself to be a place that people, could have that stop.
That's what I wanted to ask, if that was considered that lot, because there is no huge intersection there like we did out west, but the plan is for that to be.
No, it won't be an intersection.
Right.
Oh, it'll be a T. It's not gonna continue.
Yeah, but it's,
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about.
It will eventually, but it won't, it's not easy.
Not east.
well, not east, no, that's, there we go. east.
Yeah, and I don't-
West, they're talking way.
Commercial, I want to get us as much commercial as we possibly can, but here at this location. I mean, to the south, you can't get commercial anymore. To the east, southeast, northeast, you're not gonna get commercial.
Well, you can get commercial to the north of
You
here.
can get it commercial potentially to the northwest, but that's it. And I'm just, my opinion is that's not. In line with what Jeff's saying, is it's compatible with this location for commercial, in my opinion. I'm all about commercial. I want as much commercial as we can get.
I don't understand, it's just that this lot is unique.
You can't use that lot for anything else. So we just went with,
Difficult to access it without coming off of Green Hills and having an access.
Can't you rear load it like what they kind of showed? I mean, there's options to make that work, to not have a driveway right off the green.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, is it's not part of the rezone, part of the PUD that follows this. That is a requirement for that commercial piece, they can't access off greenhouse. It's gonna have to come off Buckhorn Flats.
Having mixes of uses is also really important for promoting walkability. And having something there that people on the trails could access would be a big amenity.
Does anybody disagree that the single family is compatible with the surrounding area and zones?
the single family part out.
Where's everybody at on the commercial?
I don't think the commercial fits, but I don't know what the feasibility of having that commercial there for anyway. I mean, I don't know if you would ever actually make it commercial. I don't,
It could be reabsorbed.
Yeah.
As single family. Maybe fit a little better.
So I think we're in agreement from a single family, but not on a commercial. I think for different reasons. Next question is, would all the permitted uses in this new zone be compatible in this location and the surrounding areas? And I don't believe this is any different than this question. Of course, single family, I believe, would be a consistent use. The commercial aspect of it, I think, again, even though it's a neighborhood commercial, we don't know what that looks like. So what are y'all's thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think that's kind of what we've been discussing the entire time.
Would the rezoning provide a benefit to this landowner but not be considered for other similar properties in this area? And I know there was an argument about benefit to one landowner, but every time we see, I think we've had really one or two in my time on here where it's truly benefited one landowner to do this. I'm still in the camp that we would do the same questions and the same discussion with any properties that are in this area. As far as the benefits, that's just where I'm at on this one, and certainly open to any comments from any of the commissioners. If the public is opposed, why? And again, my summary was really around traffic and the potential compatibility as arguments in regards to that. Are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion based? I don't think we had necessarily any facts. I guess the fact that a vehicle.
You're summarizing it a little bit because we're also talking about the compatibility with the neighborhoods of the area. That was another point that we all brought up.
Okay.
So you're summarizing that it's only the traffic. That's unfair to us as residents.
I said traffic and compatibility were the two things that I summed it up as.
I didn't hear the second part. I only heard the traffic part.
Sorry. So are the objections based upon factual information relating directly to this request or opinion based? There was a fact, of course, shared. There was an incident there last week, I guess, that caused some damage, but otherwise there were no other factual information presented. As far as, you know, there is some traffic studies, I guess, that have been done, but those weren't presented this evening, or anything else in regards to that. So there was no factual information necessarily reported that present directly to this rezoning situation.
But there is, we presented the fact that both neighborhoods are not zoned the same as this one.
If you'd like to address us with a comment, that time has passed.
But you guys are ignoring us, and am I the only one listening to this? Or you guys hear the same thing? Because since you're saying about traffic, but ignoring the fact.
This is my meeting. And we did not ignore you. You were allowed to speak. You were allowed to ask questions. We're in our summary now for our discussion to take a vote. We didn't ignore anything that was said. That's the reason that we have discussions like this. Traffic and compatibility were the two main things that were brought up amongst the folks that spoke tonight. Does anybody have anything different in regards to the opposition from the public?
Are you considering the statement that this is an RS3 and everything around RS2 and it's not part of the master plan as a fact, or?
That would be compatibility. I mean, that would be under the compatibility piece.
Okay, great.
Are there any additional discussions, comments, or questions from any of the commissioners before we consider a vote?
It seems that the point of contention is around that a commercial piece, right? That'd be something that we could table and reconsider, or we're voting with commercial.
Just do away with the commercial. Do it all. Or agree.
That would require a new submission and everything.
They can go down.
So downgrade, okay, that's less.
They can go down.
So do we
Yeah.
start from the top?
Yeah, there you go. That changes. the whole-
That changes, that's the reason I said that, because that does impact a lot of what was brought up when it, in regards to compatibility and things of that nature, was that commercial piece being part of it.
I address you guys for 1 second. Just make a comment.
Give us just a second to get through the fact that he just
Do we need to reopen the public hearing?
made a request.
I mean, I'm just asking, they changed their request. So, it's a public hearing.
And I'm gonna call timeout and ask my lawyer.
I think if you're gonna reconsider a different set of facts, you probably want to reopen the public hearing.
John, I motion to open public hearing for rezone 2220.
I have one comment before you do that. If that's if what you're saying is true, we've not then given other folks around that area the chance to reconsider this for a different request.
Well, we are permitted if it is a down.
That's what I'm asking is like what, I don't know all the,
They couldn't come and raise the density
but if they downgrade, it doesn't require them to then
less impact.
publicize to the community around them or anything of that nature.
Less intense.
Right.
So. And I don't know if it would help. Can we limit the comments to? that
Anything
piece?
new, sure. if it-
Anything
for
new
time
regarding
purposes.
the
I'll amend my motion.
agreement?
John, I motion to reopen the public hearing for rezone 2220 in regards to new information regarding the commercial aspect.
Tony, a second.
We have a motion and a second to reopen for discussion around commercial. Is there anyone that's opposed? Okay. Yes, sir.
Matthew Friedman, 1621 Quail Ridge Way. If you guys are deciding to change, the correct thing to do is to notify all of the neighborhood landowners and everybody that's live around it, just like you guys notified them about this one, for them to be aware of what is changing, so that way they can voice their opinion. Because the only ones that can voice their opinion are those who are sitting here right now, not anybody else, because you guys presented a plan that was presented to you guys from the developer, and they are now requesting in the meeting to be different. So the correct thing is to back up and for that to be submitted a new process. That is what I'm just requesting.
Thank you.
Annabella Freeman, 1621 Pearl Ridge Way. And I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't recall your name, but you mentioned that there was an overlap between R2 and R3 where single homes were possible. And so you were in favor of asking the commissioners to approve it because there was that overlap. If the intent was to keep single homes and use that overlap, they don't need to request for a rezoning because the single family homes would allow them to use it. So I would strongly come back to you to object that we change the rezoning because of the impact of more houses in that area. I don't think that any of the neighbors are opposed to development because we know that the city needs to continue growing and continue develop. But all the surrounding neighborhoods have certain density. And by changing the density to an R3, we will be adding more houses to the area. Thank you.
Just for clarification, today it's agriculture, so they have to come and ask for a rezone if they want to build a subdivision there. Okay, does that make sense?
It does.
Okay,
However, the master plan was zoned for something when developed and when rezoned was for single family homes, not the higher density single family homes. Right.
but there is that overlap, and that's what she was talking about. It allows for even some of the larger R2s there could be an overlap, if that makes sense. And so by lot size and by density, so that's the reason that in the plan, we leave it to medium and high and low, if that makes sense. So that's the reason that's what she talks about when there's this overlap.
Wouldn't there be, shouldn't we then allow it for the zoning that the planning commission stated right from the beginning and just authorize the type of zoning that it was meant for those 10 acres then?
And that's what we're considering this evening. That's the reason we're here.
Yes, I agree. However, they're asking for a higher density than what the planning commission had stated. The vision for that.
They could actually ask for more. So based on what they've asked for less than what they actually could ask for from a single family perspective.
And they asked for it already back in February.
They asked for multifamily.
And the density for R2 is 2 per acre, was it?
No, more than that.
No, just 3 to 4 per.
Just something to reconsider, or something to consider, and was brought up at the start of all this, the definition of medium density residential. The areas have an overall density of approximately 3 to 7 units per acre. Max density allowed for R3S is 6 units per acre.
So that's the overlap. You could go to 7. So you could go R2 and put 7 units an acre, or you could go R3 and go 6 units an acre. Correct? That's what it comes down to. So the 36 units they're asking for, they could go R2, and if you could fit it on there, put even more units. Even at what we have planned for at R2. By the math.
According to the math.
By the math. No, I'm not saying that's how the land would fit, but by the math, if you look at the intensity of the land.
Different other requirements like your road frontages and your setbacks change.
With those changes, real quick, with those changes that you're referring to, though, is there, I mean, as you stated earlier, you know, there's 3 houses up to 6 houses, 3 houses up to 7 houses. Is there also change in setbacks allowed for that zoning?
Firm number for the setback. It's not a range in the setback distances. What that distance is, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. I just was curious.
Buildable lot size. Yeah.
Rear and 7 size.
Yeah.
That's pretty typical.
Yeah.
Throughout all.
I wasn't sure if there was some flexibility in that as well.
I was just saying, from a mathematical standpoint, if you're looking at intensity versus what we actually would be on the PUD on what's buildable, right?
Harold Castro, 1501 Clover Way. I just kindly ask that we allow other residents to weigh in, table this discussion until a future meeting. I'm trying to get some other neighbors to weigh in and come by, but unfortunately, there was a lot of things going on today and they couldn't make it. With this change, I strongly believe that it should be a new request. None of us were aware that you could do this in a meeting where you could just change the request. And I just kindly again ask that you guys table this and ask for a future date so that residents can weigh in and have time to digest what the change really means and actually go to their diligence as well. That's all I gotta say. Thanks.
I'm from 1730 Quail Ridge Way. We're dropping the commercial component of this, guys. What's going in there?
It's gonna all be the amended.
So
request
we're
for-
increasing the density of the number of houses on that street if it's going to housing.
If that lot is buildable, but that was some of the contention that was
Well, I mean,
discussed. It's not, you can't access it from the greenhouse, so
they would have to work out fire act.
fire access is an access is
So
off.
we can say that it's not accessing on the greenhouse, but that's a matter of semantics. In order to get to that property, you have to come off a greenhouse. That is the only way you can get into it. It could have another side street into it, but all that traffic from that commercial goes back in there. But my question is, if he's withdrawing commercial and you've got that plot of land, what's going there? And if he's putting more houses in there.
Single family houses, and technically
You guys need to table this.
the design is not considered, their plans shouldn't be considered in a rezoning request. It should be strictly, does this fit?
That would come on the PUD afterwards, the actual design for the land.
Okay.
But you were requested to table, right?
Marples, 2804 Southwest coverage, Luke Marples. Southwest Conference. And this is just more question. So you said the overlap between R2 and R3 wouldn't make a difference mathematically. So where would it make a difference so that we can understand if it doesn't matter mathematically, there's a reason why they're here today to make it R3. I just want to understand what that reason is.
And that point, we don't know yet until we get, for me, at least, put to the PUD to see what's actually designed. Now, just mathematics, you look at the use of the land itself. Can you use it for that purpose? Now, lay out the lots and the plots and the homes and stuff, that's a different stage. So it would, I'm not, we haven't gotten to that point yet, so I don't know what they plan to do with those size of the buildable lots, what type of homes, other than 2,000 square feet. I don't have a lot of detail to say that it will be any different, you know what I mean? Other than mathematically.
Honestly, I don't. So I mean, because you have R2, you have R3. For some reason, we're kind of juggling between the two, but you're saying you could still fit the same amount of units, which if it, and that.
In math, you could.
Just stick with R2.
But we don't know until we see the design of the land, which the
design.
dedicated right of way, the streets, the fire access, all that has to come into play to see what you can actually build there.
So maybe, so that's what the R3 then is. It allows a different design.
It allows for different lot sizes and things of that nature.
That's
A little bit more flexibility.
what I was looking for.
Matt Rand's 1290 Elizabeth Loop. Setting aside the overlap issues, it's on the PUD, it's clear that they're requesting for lot sizes and setbacks that are nowhere close to R2. It's significantly different, but my main objection is with the R3 SF there. It's a fact that that's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. It's a fact that it's incompatible. It's my opinion that it's incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. You've got a lot of single story houses on either side, and these are, I think, allowed to be up to 45 feet tall. That's higher land there anyway. It's gonna tower for the houses in Creekside. Yeah, my main objection was not with the commercial, but with the inconsistent R3SF.
Diana Allen, 201 Blake Drive. I just have a question, or I don't live in that area, but of course I drive that street like all of us do. So tonight's meeting, so I think, I don't know that everybody understands, and maybe I'm not clear either. Tonight's meeting is simply about rezoning, not about what they're building, correct?
Technically, it's twice. So this consideration is for the rezoning of the lands. The consideration after this is for the development of that, because they've requested a PUD, which is stricter design standards according to what we put in place. So because they're doing that afterwards as an overlay, it's a little bit different, although we can't consider it. We have to think about the fact that they're requesting single family.
So afterwards, tonight or afterwards at another date?
Evening.
This evening. Once it's rezoned, let's say it's rezoned to what they're asking for. Down the road, they can change their plan to whatever fits that R3, correct?
Not if we, technically, yes, but the difference tonight is the fact that they're requesting a PUD after this.
And what is a PUD? I thought I don't understand that.
So I can't even think of what the.
Unit development.
It's been a long night already. So the planned unit development is, I'll call it language that we put in place that allows for a developer to come in and develop an area according to, think about a shopping area, or think about an area where they would maybe want to put a mixture of commercial and residential together. So rather than rezone a bunch of different parcels to try to create one, we've allowed for this PUD that they can come in and they can say, we want commercial here. Maybe it's commercial on the bottom with residential on top. And then over here, we want residential, and then maybe we want commercial back here. So it allows for multiple uses of a parcel of land, but it's very strict into what they do. And actually, whenever they do that, it requires more green space in all reality. So part of the reason that it was written so that they could better manage the land and then create that, if that makes sense, if that helps.
Yeah, I didn't understand that next
part of it, so. Thank you.
To clarify, it doesn't have to be two different uses,
I didn't, sorry, I didn't.
just to make it
Come
clear.
back later, even after tonight,
Yes.
and have different drawings and different plans.
Have to come back.
They have to come back. That's what I understand.
This time, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
There any time to hold a meeting or that's it? Some people were trying to make it, but.
I'll make a motion to close the public meeting.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? So I do have at least a statement or a concern. Understanding the fact we're not supposed to consider the PUD, but the PUD will not be what we'll actually consider for this plot of land if we do make this change right now. So I would just offer that up because it could potentially change. So I don't know, Jeff, if you're in favor of a table tonight. I know we've been here for a long time. I think it's going to change some things, and I understand that you want to withdraw the commercial part of it, but then that changes the entire layout.
Somebody, because that has nothing to do with it, and then take the PUD, then you'll see the 3 lots or 2 lots or whatever we put. Next.
But understand, if you never show back up, then you've now been allowed to do R3 single family lots. And not that part of our consideration is around the PUD, but we're thinking about compatibility in the area as well. So I would offer up the opportunity to table it, or we can take a vote.
Two weeks or a month.
We're back in. We are back in 2 weeks, yes.
Yeah, we'll just take it. Then maybe I think everybody had as happy as they can be.
And understand, we would,
We could come back and do it R2 and R2 with the same PUD. It's gonna be the same density.
don't, again, help us through it, okay? And so when you come back though, we would want to see an updated PUD, and I haven't even looked at the calendar for next time, but
What is zoning?
You can, but I think I see what Sabrina's trying to do here.
Okay.
does that make sense? You don't disagree, do you?
No, I don't disagree.
I mean, to be fair, they could have a PUD that matches the zoning request. And then just table the PUD. If that zoning were to get passed, and it would be the same thing, opportunity that they have tonight.
Understand, fair. But I think there are things to consider, Jeff, for the next time.
I have a question for you. If you do table, are you gonna give the folks who didn't have an opportunity to come tonight to re-speak and have another public hearing for them? I think there's some other folks that did want to speak. Just give them.
We table it. We would open it up for the public to speak, yes.
But
They don't have to send notice.
the notice will not go out.
They don't have to send renotice. You've already been notified.
Okay, Jeff, for clarification. I was wanting to maybe for 2 weeks. For the public hearing, correct?
We would open it up for the public.
Continuation.
Jerry, anything on our agenda is open to the public for a question, and
It wouldn't necessarily be a public hearing.
it would not be notification.
Okay, yeah, I'm clear.
But I think the word of mouth will get out.
It would also require them having those plans updated, submitted, approved and ready for that. It's just to change the commercial to be able to be done, but.
No, I mean, that would be nice, but no.
I have a quick question, if I may. Understanding this is gonna be in 2 weeks or a month, when would we, the public, be aware that this is gonna be, and again, if we're not notified?
Yeah, the agendas are posted on the city website and made available for anyone that wishes to view any of the meetings.
In advance, you know.
Usually on Thursday.
We usually post them the week before the meetings.
With that being said, I would entertain a motion to table rezone 22-20 commercial homes by Roth.
John, I motion to table rezone 2220 commercial homes by Roth.
And I second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? Jeff, we're gonna table the next one as well. So because it's going to change, I mean, if the commercial aspect of it does come, I don't know that we need to review it this evening because it's gonna change. So with that, I would entertain a motion to table PUD 2203, The Landing.
On subsequent motion to table PUD 2203, The Landing.
Joey, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed to that? All right, next on the agenda this evening. It is a public hearing. And this is for move 2202 Fair Street Village at 280 Fair Street. It is zoned R3 multifamily. 1.50 acres, 1998 mobile home, space number 3. How are you?
Well, good evening. So we own the Oldham Mobile Home Park.
What is your name? Sorry.
Guy Torelli, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Get your name.
And so the permit is to move a new mobile home in, replacing in the same spot as one of the old dilapidated homes. And I didn't realize there was, I think I sent you 5 copies, so you might have in front of you the documentation where you can see the old home and the new home we put in. And so what happened with, we did not get the permit before the home came in, and so we were here a month ago to get the permit for the other one, which we got, and so now I'm here to show you the details of this one.
Same situation. This one already is there. So
It's already there. And I provided in the packet the insurance information, the mover, the licensing information, the Department of Transportation documents, and their installation certification. And it's a beautiful late model home compared to the 1970s falling over home that was there. So
the one that's in the middle of the driveway right now that's torn apart, they're going away, I'm assuming.
yeah, that one's is torn down and half gone, and it'll be less in about a week. And that was another just older home. Couldn't really do anything with, so we'll look for a newer, later model home to replace it.
Do you want to give us the staff?
Eric is doing this one.
Thanks, Eric. You can have a seat if you want. We'll call you back up if we have any questions.
Thank you, Jeanette.
To location December 10th, 2021. The home replaced Mr. Torelli was notified that he would need to complete a moving permit application for the home. Planning Commission approved the moving permit 22-01 for space number 2 on July 5th, 2022. This home was also moved. And this home was also moved in prior to receiving a moving permit. The home was moved to space number 2 in June 22nd, 2022.
Space 3.
Space 3.
Sorry.
Need a correction in the form.
The city previously granted a retroactive moving permit to moving permit 20-02. penalty in July 2020. However, it should be noted that Mr. Gonzalez was a first-time offender. This shows on the plans. The space number 3 is on the building setback.
Space number 3 was previously located behind the setbacks. It was moved to be within the setbacks it was replaced.
See, the home was replaced with a newer home.
Included is the municipal code, which we've seen before. The whole property is within the floodplain, and we have received a floodplain permit.
So this one's in violation, similar to the other one, the fact it was moved in without a permit.
Correct.
Okay. You understand that, right? Yes. Okay. Anything else from staff? It's very similar to the last one, correct? Similar to the last one, correct? Except for, I don't think we had the floodplain permit last time.
It was already moved in, set up, and everything. And we took care of number 2, and we were wanting to do 2 and 3 at the same time, but we're just getting 3 taken care of.
Okay. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Done a motion of public hearing for MOV 2202.
Ben, I second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak in regards to the moving 2202 at Fair Street Village? Second call. Third and final call for anyone.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Greg, I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Are there any questions or comments from any of the commissioners in regards to move 22-02? If there are no additional comments or questions, then I would entertain a motion for the move 2202 Fair Street Village. And this is space number 3.
I'll make a motion to approve MOV 22-02 Fair Street Village, space number 3.
And I'll second.
Motion and a second. You can give it to Jerry or Devin, whoever. And we will do a roll call vote.
Joey Engel.
Yes.
Brennan Swoboda,
Yes.
Jerry Harris.
Yes.
Ben Lewis.
Yes.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Craig Langford,
Yes.
Alan Sessoms,
Yes.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
Matt Safarth.
Yes. Thank you. Your intent is to do one more, is that correct? Is your intent to do one more, is that correct?
Yes,
You understand the process?
I did that thoroughly.
Beforehand.
And I appreciate chatting with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was gonna ask, can you do it beforehand without knowing the model of the home and everything?
Permit and stuff probably can.
Yes.
What I'd like to do is we're gonna work on a development plan, show where any trailers would be moved and new trailers brought in, and see if we can get this where we can do it administratively.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have to do that every time he moves a trailer.
Yes.
The code, then he would, so that's our end goal, is we get that developed.
I will get with you on that. Would be great.
Make them your best friend.
Yes.
Right. Thank you. Good luck. All right, next on the agenda this evening is Development 2206 Walgreens Pharmacy, large scale development at the northeast corner of Copper Oaks and Centerton Boulevard. As a reminder, it's zone C2 and 1.22 acres.
Keep going.
We're on the downhill side.
Chris Hardy with CEI Engineering, representing Bengal Properties and Walgreens on this development. As you can tell, it's a new Walgreens prototype, a little bit smaller than what they usually do. It's just under 10,000 square feet. We provided parking, everything per code. We were sprinkling the building, adding a fire sprinkler, adding a hydrant and everything, and then trees along both Centerton Boulevard and Elm Road there. So you guys have any questions, just let me know.
So walk me through, since I asked for it last time, this delivery routing diagram. I was trying to follow the truck. So they're gonna go down into Copper Oaks. They're gonna turn in.
Yeah, so they'll go down to Copper Oaks, turn onto Copper Oaks, turn into that driveway off of Copper Oaks, go behind the building and pull off onto Centerton Boulevard.
So they're gonna back into this dock. Is that the plan?
They don't have a dock. Okay. Everything is just unloaded with low, things like that.
And I mean, according to the according to the diagram, they're gonna take the stop sign out. Is that correct? Or am I just overlooking that? Here's the line right here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's no stop sign right there. Don't believe.
It says stop on it. I mean,
That's
I'm just,
been marking.
it's all not a pole. All right. And if there are cars that are pulling out, then the truck's gonna stop in the road and wait for them to leave. Is that correct?
Yes. So, yeah, he'll just kind of pull in there as close as he can. There's the bay door. And if you see, there's the trash compactor enclosure, which is what I think you were thinking was possibly a dock. And then there's like a tote enclosure on the back as well. That's kind of their cargo door.
All right. So what we asked for was a diagram of how the trucks would enter the facility and exit the facility. And so, yes, the truck in the example there on the bottom, it would be 102. And so it would turn onto that street and then it would turn into the parking lot. Sorry, Brandon, do you have a question?
No, I was just curious. I can't recall the number of homes that are being impacted by that, the whole truck issue coming in and out along that road and the subdivision back there. I'm not saying I need a number, but
Wouldn't be any, right?
there's not.
On the other side of
It's commercial on both sides.
On both sides, and but behind it is,
There are homes behind it,
the
yeah.
homes that are behind it, right? Is that just a one subdivision in and out? I can't recall.
No, there's,
Access from to.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
They do, okay. I couldn't recall.
and it shouldn't be out there very long. I simply wanted a diagram and I've
Yeah, no,
noticed.
I was curious just why the.
We've had 54-foot trucks get stuck.
Well, I couldn't recall why the truck just couldn't use.
Yeah.
The axe,
They have to pull,
it has to come that way.
you have to pull from the left lane of the two on 102 to make that right turn in. And even then it would take the whole intersection to get in to make that curve. If you wanted to come out on Copper Oaks Boulevard,
Okay.
the safest route is coming in off Copper Oaks.
He's definitely taking up all of Copper Oaks.
He's even doing that, yeah.
That's, I think that's where I'm getting to too, is we've got that big parking lot. That we can do all of our maneuvering around and you're not gonna be backing up. And I'm just curious why we have to use. I'm just thinking about the residents, I'm thinking about coming in and out, I'm thinking about the.
He couldn't turn. He couldn't
Okay.
use the same entrance, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't drive a big truck, so I wouldn't know.
And we won't allow them to put two entrance and exits really out of that. It's not ideal to have it that close. I mean,
Either way, yeah. I mean,
Two on Copper.
yeah,
truck driver, if he's gotta make a left coming out of there, he's gonna have a hard time anyway.
yeah. I just wanted to see how it went around. Like today at Walmart, they have to get in,
He'll have to.
They'll turn right on.
turn in, so. All right. Donna, did you want to give us your overview? Sorry, I got sidetracked.
Not a problem. So this is located at Copper Oaks in 102. There are existing improvements. There is going to be a sidewalk connection along Copper Oaks. And they don't have to dedicate any more right of way. All of that is already done. There is landscaping planned along the north side. They have bump outs. You saw this with the conditional use approval. We have an adjacent street agreement, which staff recommends approval for, which includes the sidewalk, it includes streetlights, it includes the street trees. There's no additional detention that needs to be included. That was all accounted for with the Copper Oak subdivision. We have received a lighting plan, which meets the lighting code. The adjacent street agreement is included in your packet. Other minor changes that you can make to it, but generally speaking, staff approval.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners?
I got a question. What were the landscape requirements put on it by the conditional use, and does this meet it? There's still a lot of room out front.
There is, but with it being RDOT right of way, they pretty much never accept trees in their right of way. So we've had to look at site triangle and what we can manage within.
There's a lot of room outside of the right of way. And the last CEI project through here, they were putting trees in the right of way and using it to their advantage. So.
Right. RDOT's been very.
I know, I brought that up.
I know.
So are those trees in RDOT right away?
They are not, they are just outside of it. So up on the north side, just north of the tree line, all of that is wildflowers. So that's gonna be a pretty substantial wildflower area. There's screening along the parking area. There's shrubs in the the parking islands, and there are trees outside of the site triangles.
Yeah, but specifically to the conditional use, what was the recommendation or what was approved?
Street trees and recommendation for parking islands, but there was not specific numbers. They do meet the landscape requirements for screening adjacent to residential.
Yeah, that side looks good, for sure.
Any additional questions or comments? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for development 2206 Walgreens Pharmacy, large scale development.
John, a motion to approve development 2206 Walgreens Pharmacy, large scale.
Second. Motion second. Is anyone opposed? Thanks, Chris. Good luck.
Maybe not be sorry.
I forgot that. All right, next on the agenda this evening is vacation 2204 Brandout. So I hope I said that correct. Sorry if I don't. 720 Harvest Street, lot 6 of Bliss Orchard, requesting to vacate 10 feet of 25 feet rear yards for an in-ground pool. It is zoned R2. And the public hearing before the city council is on 9/13. The applicant is Josh and Jamie Brando. Is the applicant Brando, sorry, is the applicant here to give us an overview?
I'm covering it tonight.
Marlon Brando.
So this is part of the Orchard subdivision, which was one of the last ones to dedicate all of the setbacks as utility and range easements. So they're 25 foot rear yard setback with all utility easement. We have heard from all but one of the utility companies, which is AEP SWEPCO, that they are either okay with the vacation or are okay with it pending the relocation of their line. CenturyLink does have an existing line in the back, which is resident here. Located right about the edge of their proposed pool. Mr. Brando has told me that he is coordinating with them to discuss relocating the line. We have generally, my recommendation as staff would be to either deny the vacation or to approve a smaller amount, given that there is that existing line in the back. But the utility company has said that if the line is relocated at the applicant's expense, that they're okay with it. We have received notice from one of the adjacent property owners that they have no comments or objections. The others have been delivered or are available for pickup. We just haven't gotten a response back yet.
There was no reason given why they couldn't just move the pool up a couple feet necessarily.
This is the preferred alignment.
Okay. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners in regards to this vacation?
Are there any public utilities located in the rear yards along that street?
The only utilities we have been notified are of our CenturyLink. There's no storm, no water, no sanitary. It's a franchise utility line.
Drainage, it looks like it's adjacent, is it adjacent to a floodplain?
It's not, so it is 2 streets over.
Okay, I got you.
Now there is a drainage easement 3-4 houses to the south where a storm drain discharges and cuts across to the Woodlawn drain.
Any other questions or comments? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion for vacation 2204.
Tony will make a motion to approve vacation 22-04.
Devin, I'll second.
Motion in a second. Is anyone opposed? Will you note that I'm opposed, please? Next on the agenda is vacation 2205 Willow Crossing to the northwest corner of Marigold and Cedar. Vacate all existing drainage, utility, and public access easements. It is zoned R4 multifamily, 7.38 acres, and the rezone public hearing is before the council on 9/13. The applicant here to give us an overview.
None.
All right, Eric.
So to simply put, yes, the vacation calls for removal of all easements dedicated by the mentioned lot number, which was approved back in 2018. However, with the recent approval of a tax split from 2022, there will be new easements in place of it. So included in this vacation are our access easements, utility easements, and drainage easements. So with that, that's the vacation on the shelf. Looking at the east side of the property where the water line is. Centerton Utilities has been concerned about their removal of that easement, but however, with the recent approval and recording of the new track split replat. 22 dash. That shouldn't be an issue because there will be an easement in place for that.
It's not all existing easements because you're saying there's a plat that's already dedicated different easements.
Yes, not all existing easements, it's all easements dedicated by the platform. So far, having gotten. The only franchise utility I got back from Cox, and they said they had no objections or any issues. Unless there's any damage caused by their existing utilities. With Black Hills Energy having no objections or comments as well.
So they're asking to vacate just about all the drainage easements? Wow.
It's the same thing as with, it's the same thing with the water one. They did the track split, well, the adjustment for lot 2D. And they've reestablished a lot of those easements, just changed the width. Of what they are to what they're gonna need to put what they have in their proposal. So. The comment I had was that they need to attach that proposed one to say they're vacating these ones, but these ones are still in place.
So you're good with the new proposed easements?
Yes, because with what they'll have, as long as, at the same time these are vacated, the other ones are still active. At no point would there not be an easement above that water main. And everything else is going to be proposed drainage easements. That will fit the development.
Any additional?
There's a sewer main there too.
I think there was a sanitary sewer on the south side of the property.
Southeast.
East, yeah.
You're good with this and water and sewer is good with this.
As long as there's always an active easement on top, at no point can that easement above the water main not be active. You can't have like.
But the tracks that dedicated those is filed and.
Filed and recorded.
I don't know if they put that note on here yet,
Yeah, they need to put that note on.
so. They're vacating these, but that one's still active.
And that guarantees that
Yeah, it's not gonna have a 2-day time when, oh, there's no rights for the water.
Essentially, there's two easements over it.
Say that again.
Essentially, there's two easements over it. One dedicated by the one from 2018 and the one dedicated from Michigan.
Any other questions or comments from any of the commissioners? If not, I would entertain a motion for vacation 2205 Willow Crossing.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to approve vacation 2205. With the approval from all outstanding utility companies.
John, a second. Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Next on the agenda this evening is under other business, the Richwoods discussion on adjacent street agreement, Motley Road and future collector, also known, I guess, as Wade Extension. Jeff, is this you?
Don't see anybody here. Maybe I won't get in trouble this time.
You could still get in trouble.
In a nutshell. They don't own this property. This is phase one. They're wanting to pay a fee in lieu of this because we have no idea when this is going to develop or when that's going to develop. And this part, they're wanting to build their half of the street, curb, gutter, sidewalks, all that stuff. And then when they develop this side, they want to build the other half. So they're just waiting to build the other side of this street when they do that half. Because everything's so expensive right now, but they would build 2 lanes enough to get cars, pretty good.
They own the other one?
They own this side too, yes. It's just to this line. Agreements
So it's just a half section on that, what, north, south, west road? Oh, yes, I'd just leave that. That's enough to have. Well, we'll have to build a little bit more. We'll make sure there's 24. Especially they stab on, extend and curve and go. And whenever they do this. Get it, what about?
So we haven't gotten to it yet. As part of that development phase one, there is some area detention on the west side, and that's what that is. That's what their client is requesting, is that they do the half. Staff is the firm belief that it should be the full 38-foot section to the north side of that pond. So that way they're not going to impact any of the drainage. It's done and built, and you have your full turn lanes coming out.
Donna, you want to walk us through staff?
Yes. So to give you a better understanding of the parcels. The Richwood subdivision, which is what's being proposed, is these parcels. So the collector being discussed would be along here. So the detention pond will be being built here. And most of the neighborhood would be here. Staff would like to at least see the full construction to the north side of the detention pond. So as Alan said, there's no impact to the drainage. And we would like to see construction here. We have coordinated with the property owner to the west. He has stated that he is 100% willing to provide a construction easement to allow whatever grading or construction would need to happen on his road, on his side of his property. As he needs to access this sewer and he wants to see this happen. But essentially, we want to see this is the in the darker color is the Richwood proposal. To the north is the concept in Bentonville. So when it is fully constructed, it would connect here and back up here. What we would like to see is the full construction to the north above the pond, and then the half construction on the north side where there's not the full.
You hang on a second though, but this doesn't go in. This is gonna be, this is huge. You can't really tell when this. I don't remember how many acres it is, but it's hundreds of lots. And they're doing it 5 phases, so it may be 10 years. We did have half a street to nowhere. Well, this guy, we don't know what he's gonna do. And it's the same deal. They're making us, wanting us to build this full street here. Because the grading, what about this guy? What's he gonna? He's the same deal over here. It's not fair for my clients to have to pay for build that now. I can see it being lieu of, that way you're insured you're gonna get it. That doesn't make any sense to build that street. I can see it here.
In other cities, you build it all. The first phase,
What do you mean?
all the offsite improvement. That's offsite improvement.
Don't make us. We're going through that with Big Bill now. They're making us build that offsite.
You're saying you don't know what he's gonna build. If he take a fee in lieu for $100,000 to build that north part now. In 5 years, when he builds. I'm just gonna give him $100,000 to build your half of the road that may cost now 200,000. Whereas if you already have it built, it's going to tie into. And it's already
That's
there,
the way we've always done it in the past.
and he's willing to give you the construction easement to build that road. So I mean, what's the difference between you building it now for 100 and doing a fee in lieu for 100,000?
Because we would only have to build half of it.
That's what you'd be doing here too.
But you said we'd have to build the whole 24, you'd have to have two
We
lanes.
want to see the full, at least to the north of the detention pond.
He's saying your half section.
The half section where everything north of that pond.
So we'll just block off the road and have one lane, one north. That's it.
We're in.
Yes, you can have one lane out there for however many years.
You're saying taper it after you go north of the pond, taper it back into one,
Just go north of the pond. They own both of those lots and they are doing work with development on that west half. So what it does is protect that west half to make sure if they put an entrance road, it's not gonna be as like even closer to the intersection, or at a left turn conflict. And make sure that that pond is protected with all that area grading. Sized ahead for future development. So you're protecting all the drainage and protecting the traffic on there. And they are developing part of it, so typically if they develop all of it on both sides, they do a full section as they start. So at least there where they're doing work, it's doing the full section. And then say going north, past the pond at that entrance, you're looking at doing the half section, or what he's saying is the half section up to that property line where he doesn't own the other side and doing a fee for the other half.
So a half section to here. And then it'll just be one lane from here on up.
We would, like I said, talking with that owner, he is amendable and has. I can put you in contact with him for working to get that easement.
Right away or a construction easement?
At that point, it's gonna be what's more mutually beneficial for both of you. And that's why we have the half street agreement options. We give them two when they build. One is to build 24-foot wide road. Ditches, the other one would be to build 19-foot with curb and gutter and drainage structures. So it's those two, what's gonna be more mutually beneficial for doing that? I'll let them figure out that with that easement. But that way the road's there, so there's something to tie into. And the worry is if he just does a fee in lieu, he's saying it's gonna be 5 years to build.
Is he gonna give the right of way and pay for his half of the street? Then we can do it.
Is that road centered on that property line all the way north?
It could be, but I'd say right now it
Is the
is
street plan?
slightly off of theirs. On the master street plan, yes, it's right on that property line.
Yes, and the master street plan, Bentonville shows this as well.
Because directly north of this property, it borders both Centerton and Bentonville. That subdivision that wraps around is all in Bentonville.
I mean, it makes sense to me to go ahead and build a full section to here, this first entry. And then do the 2-lane road. You know, our curb, gutter, sidewalk, and then, you know, enough for 24 feet for people to drive to here.
You've already gone past your property line. So you're getting a.
That's where we can get a little bit of easement. I'm sure they make that work, but I don't see they're gonna pave a whole lane on somebody else's property. A lot of expense that that guys are gonna get for free.
Got a fee in lieu with, adjusted for inflation for 5 years.
Should be anyway.
Yeah, it should be.
For the code, it's. supposed to
For
be.
me.
Just, here's my question. Why isn't it a full section to their property line and then figure out what to do north of there? I think the right of way deal is tricky with the adjacent property owner for sure. But it looks like y'all are dedicating your half of the right of way, right?
They were gonna finish it when they do the next phase. Do the rest of the full section. They were just trying to save some money and not have to do the whole full section.
So either ways, with this property, we'll have two egresses for all the residents over there. Because one egress will be on the Motley and this road will directly connect to the one. So whoever, when we go by phase, so they will have two egress points. I don't see the reason why we need to have this at this junction. when we come up with all the property.
It's a code requirement, not just a two access point requirement.
No, that's what I'm saying. So we'll be building this road as well and this road. So whoever, for example, if this is the phase one, so they have the access to both the.
Yeah, the code requirement is to build your half street section, not just the two access points for your development.
The code is you gotta build half of this anyway, but they want you to build all of it.
So what's going on in the west and what project are you saying is
So
going on?
what happened is wetlands here, and we're having to go through the national wetlands to try to do the core stuff, so it's taking some time. So we preserve this area, so we had to put detention over here.
So it's acting as area detention, so they're doing upgrades on the property they own to the west.
So that property is part of this project.
Yes.
Yes.
So why is it not justified to get full road improvements the whole way?
Look at them developing the north. And that's the leeway I'm willing to give them, as long as they build the full road to the pond, so it doesn't affect the.
No, I'm saying up to.
That pond, that western property that holds that pond is part of this.
Yeah,
I just want.
you know what, that's on a full road all the way to the property line that's east and west where they don't have.
Just the detention's part of it. We don't have lots of your
It's on your property. It's part of your property.
They are two different lots.
It's still part of this project and that's a regional detention. No, no, I'm sorry. It's part of this project. Tony, if they didn't have it, they couldn't do it.
He's saying he's gonna build 24 feet.
No, I'm saying full build out road section all the way to that
Red.
property line. Yeah. I don't know why that wouldn't be what we got.
You're gonna get it eventually. They're just trying to postpone it for a little bit. Costs are so high right now and everything with storm drain and pipe and asphalt, you know how
I
expensive.
don't know what you're saying.
It's a lot to,
Where's your phase one line?
it's a lot to absorb and
The entire project's being built as one phase right now.
Well, why were you, Jeff was just talking about phases.
That's the stuff that happens in Bentonville.
we all want to do this.
Yeah, even this one as well will want to go in the 4 phases. Like phase one will start from here, phase to here.
Well, after phase one, you're gonna have to build that entire road to the west anyway.
Yes.
This is gonna be built, the whole thing to the west will have to be built in your second phase anyway. Just for, again, your fire access, because if this is building before the stuff in Bentonville.
I think I would be willing to do the full section, but stop it at the phase line. That would be my concession. As long as it gets you to where we need to be. And then with the second phase, the whole thing would be constructed all the way to the north as far as they can get. Correct?
Why are you wanting to stop it at the retention pond there and not go at least to the access?
So the way I look at it is when you build in the future, the other side, there's no development, there's no grading yet. So to get that intersection, any culverts, anything you need there, I want to stop just south of that intersection to the east, so you can mirror the intersection on the west would be the assumption. And you don't know how that grading is going to work yet until you develop that side. And that's where I'd be more concerned with just getting the curb and gutter, so now they won't have an access for certain south of that pond onto that, an arterial or a collector. Collector then, so their access wouldn't be that close to the intersection down to the arterial. Because what's not shown as much on there that's already known is the Motley Road to the south is an arterial. Future plan is 5-lane.
Yeah, it's dirt.
It's dirt now, but future's 5-lane. So that one is, we're matching what Bentonville's doing, considering they surround us on 3 sides.
Maybe,
So
I mean, it's barely enough to get 2 cars.
starting, it's only gonna be half, but
They're gonna have to 4-lane this. And all the way out here, so they're trying to, that's just a lot for this to absorb.
this plan with the half part, half on a 5, I think. And with the trail being north out of Bentonville. 26 feet, 22 feet, no, it couldn't be 22.
No, I don't.
I think about 26 feet of pavement. There on Motley. So again, they're looking to save cost, and that's the leeway I'm willing, just because with the drainage pond, I can't see not having a full section there. I don't want, my hope is that you don't even contemplate that. Just to protect the drainage, but.
And that makes sense. When, you know, I think Rick already fine with that. Our biggest worry is this, that's not doing anything yet. And
That's outside your property line, right? Yeah.
well, half of
Half of it's on
Half
here.
of it.
So typically it's the half street improvements.
We have the one option where you do the.
Part of it, yes and no. With half street, they would do 19 feet with curb and gutter and drainage structures. That's would be right to the property line.
Right on the property.
Their proposed grading at this point now shows a 2-foot difference in grades. So have any kind of slope with that occurring there, that's where, and also have 2 cars pass. Granted, there's no entrance north of there. You should never see cars on that road ever. Until the north part builds. That's where getting a construction easement and doing the half street where it's 24 and he's encroaching 5 feet on that side, but not doing the structures. It all depends on being able to find a mutually beneficial agreement with that neighbor.
Will it work in an easement? It's just. City road should be right away, right?
Roadway is not dedicated yet with that property to the west.
I know, that's what I'm saying. How can you build in it without, no? Or how can you accept it without, right? Right,
Easement, you could build it, but we wouldn't be able to maintain it.
exactly.
No, you would need a right of way easement or else deeded. Okay, what about, this is just an actual performance bond that's held out there for so many years to ensure that work is.
The difference.
For the northern part or for which part?
It'd be in lieu, it'd be in lieu in a performance bond, because a performance bond, they'll actually perform the work.
They'll let it go. If it's
Yeah.
over and then we'll end up.
I think if you phase it, it would probably help
Yeah,
your case a little bit.
It'd make more sense.
I still don't know how you're gonna do anything to the north without help with right away. And I do agree that it's not right for your developer to bear the burden, but gotta figure out what to do, but I don't see a difference between a bond and a getting moved. They're not gonna do the work. If their bond's low, they're just gonna let it go and we cash the bond, it's the same amount of money.
Bond has an expiration. The in lieu doesn't have an expiration.
Exactly.
But if the work costs more than the bond, just forfeit the bond and say, all right, have fun.
Yeah, cool, y'all do it.
Yeah, exactly. You get no insurance.
Prices may go down in 5 years.
It ain't going. Don't feed me that. Don't feed me.
What the heck? I know we've been here a long time.
Bullfrogs have wings.
That's true.
So I'm gonna bring us back. We think we can get to an agreement this evening. I hate, although Jeff's gonna see us in 2 weeks anyway, but do we think there's something that we can give him tonight and staff to work with so that he doesn't have to come back?
So here's
I think phase.
my thought. First phase. Full section to the north of the pond.
I'm saying for the radius of that entrance.
Oh, yeah,
That entrance, yeah, the first.
second phase, finish it out to your shared property line. And then. I don't know that we can give him an answer on the north.
I mean, I think
Maybe by then it'll
You buy the other land?
opened over there.
it may be worth the conversation at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's very equitable.
So,
Like you said, a full width all the way up to the first entrance. And then in phase 2. Full width
to the second entrance. and
The
hopefully-
property line, but he would need,
Well, they
he
can't
would
get
need,
to
he
that
would
second.
need help getting that second entrance. Property line and then maybe an easement if they allow you to go to the
We
second.
got phase one, phase two, and it saves you from having to build
All
a
of
section of the road. Tear out.
And on that piece to the north, if he's building first, you'd be looking for half street improvements. The 24 instead of the 19, but not curb and gutter. That's the option we give in the streets manual or the streets.
We give the option of no urban gutter.
You build a wider.
Title 9 gives two options to where you build 19-foot pavement and do full curb and gutter and drainage. Other options you do 20, I actually think it's 25 feet of pavement. And when the next person develops, you put the curb and gutter in.
You're paying for some of
That
their
makes
roads.
sense. You're paying for
your curb and gutter.
2/3 of the asphalt.
Yeah.
They pay for the full curb and gutter and only 1/3 of the asphalt.
All of that's assuming you have right.
Correct.
Hold it in.
All assumes right of way.
And the price of concrete will come down.
Do you have a question or does that make sense?
I got it.
So, just I want to understand, so phase one, for example, if you are going here, we have to build all the road until here, but not this. No,
You build that one to the first entrance.
oh, until the first.
Right here,
No.
right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And phase two, when we are done, we have to finish until here.
Yes. Close to there as you can get.
Yeah.
And we'll stop here, and then whoever develops here, this phase or this one, they will build the next one, right?
They will continue.
Half.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever does the.
You build your half and they would build their half.
You're all gonna dedicate right away with the plat, so we'll have your half. Have you spoken to that property owner or is anybody? You know, if he. It's beneficial for him to dedicate right away if, you know, we're gonna do a 24-foot section.
I have a meeting with him.
You said he wanted to tie into that sewer anyway.
Yes.
He has.
He has beneficial to that. I
He
mean,
already has an easement putting across his property,
Yeah.
so they're gonna stub out the sewer for him. I have a meeting with that property owner on Thursday.
Well, that sounds promising.
So everybody's good on expectations? Yeah. With that being said, then I would enter, I mean, we need a motion for it,
Are
right?
you just hanging out tonight or what?
it's good shit. Discussion.
There's one more.
Yeah.
Man, you picked the wrong meeting.
On my agenda.
The agenda. Printed everything out and then it got out.
That's too bad.
Oh, head on.
Bad.
It
It should be a fast one.
I'm trying to give you a warning.
Need a motion.
Cool, let's hear it.
There's no motion for that. it's just
What
discussion,
is
right?
it then? So I can introduce it. It's the,
Division.
Adjacent street agreement.
Waited all that time. We're gonna take it, please.
maybe for you.
It's nice when you're not part of it, from the outside.
What are you asking for?
Okay, so I guess we're gonna do both of them, the street agreement, and we're gonna get the street agreement approved and the fee in lieu. So we're gonna do.
That's part of it, yeah.
That's all of it, okay. So, subdivision's approved, not asking anything different on that. We are asking for, the approval of the street, adjoining street improvement agreement, which is fairly the same from what y'all saw, I think. The only thing that's changed really is the P and L section in the Bond Road piece. And we're dedicating, or we're going to give you money for 546 square yards of asphalt widening, which that's been 8-foot wide lane with 2-6 paving section, 615 linear feet of curb and gutter. We are building the sidewalk on the right of way, but it doesn't go to the north property line due to grade, storm drain, or those culvert crossings. So we are putting in 27 more feet of 10-foot sidewalk and then the fill involved to get that up to grade.
And we got estimates, actually from the contractor that, is doing the work in the subdivision. It came out to, $38,519.50.
Jared, what's the deal on the drainage and how can it be fixed in the future if you can't do it?
When you talk,
For the sidewalk?
that corner, well, what it is, it's just the grade change, that like drain, there's no drainage issues with it. It'll just, those culverts need to be extended further west for that street section to be paved through there. But RDOT, the reason we're doing this, RDOT doesn't want those improvements made right now.
And then the whole thing is someone that north develops. They're required to build your property line. They're like, well, who's gonna do that gap? And this money goes to now fill in that gap. So it's not, why do I have to eat the extra money? Here's the fee that we have, so you can do that extra to tie it in.
Yeah, I was just wondering what in the future would change to allow them to do it. So, I guess, RDOT.
Donna, anything else?
Really the only difference is with the plans being submitted to RDOT, there was a slight change to the landscaping with not allowing any trees in the right of way. So we're shifting the trees internally, and those will be installed after the houses are constructed, so they'll be bonded with vinyl plat.
They can't go on the other side of the sidewalk because there's an existing 12-inch water main. So the only place to fit them is in the property.
How's that gonna work?
So because of the location of the ponds being right there on the road, we could shift them inside of the utility easement. So they're gonna be put in along these internal roads. But so that they aren't damaged by house construction, we'll have them installed after the homes are done. So when we go to final plat, we'll get a performance bond essentially for the cost of the trees and, you know, give it back to them once the trees are planted.
So what's our plan on getting them installed and how many trees are we talking about?
10, 11.
10 or 12,
Yeah,
something,
something.
street trees that aren't being installed anymore, so.
And they're all gonna be on these front, you lot, like right when you come into the subdivision, on each entrance is where they'll be, but they'll be on the property lines.
Yeah, can we not put them on the berm? On the top of the pond?
It's gonna damage the berm. You don't wanna put trees on top.
That's stabilization, man.
Not with trees. Bushes, I'm all for it. But tree root systems, you're just asking
Yeah, you
for.
put a couple of white oaks up there and you saw. Bigger and.
Bradford.
So the other problem.
I know, I'm giving him a hard time. Yes, certainly.
All right, I'm gonna keep us moving forward. Are there any additional questions or comments? If there are not, there are two actions as part of the motion. That would be the adjacent street agreement and the revised landscaping plan. And I would entertain a motion for that.
John, I motion to approve subdivision 2107, adjacent street improvements and landscaping plan adjustment. Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed?
What's going on?
Sleep down there. All right. Our next planning commission meeting is the 20th. The council meeting is the 13th. There's a tech review on the 22nd. Anything else from staff?
Yes, sir.
Anything else from any of the commissioners? Thank you for a productive meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you.
You're not willing to stop.